I'd like to start off by acknowledging all the people around the globe who are struggling right now. In the country, in the state, and here in Flagstaff. You know, it's great that we're all here celebrating and enjoying this beautiful evening, but there are people today in Flagstaff who are homeless, who are struggling to find a job, who can't afford the cost of living, and I think we need to keep those folks in mind as we're talking about policy and representation of this community. I'd also like to acknowledge all the people here and all the people around the globe who are working hard to create change and impact a better future. Folks from the Red for Ed movement here in Flagstaff and in the state, thank you for being here and everything you do. Really all the different movements that really represent the people, our future, education, open spaces, and what makes living life really a beautiful thing. I'd like to thank all of you. I'm running for City Council because I have witnessed the issues here in Flagstaff. I have been hosting groups meeting every week at times for the last 6 years, and I've been listening to the community's needs, and there are quite a few of them. And I've worked hard to advocate for them, educate the public, bring both sides of the aisle together to communicate the needs of those populations, and do our best to influence change at the policy level, where at times council members weren't listening. And that's what led me to run for City Council in 2016, was not feeling represented by our leadership. And that campaign was extremely successful. We're going to create change, and it's up to us to get involved to influence that change. So that's what my campaign's all about. We ran 2 years ago and focused on you, the people of Flagstaff, and it was a huge success. This campaign, our top priorities are affordable housing, water conservation, economic development, traffic and congestion, transparency around money and in government in general, and youth empowerment. And we're very excited to work on all those things. So there's two pieces of the sound ordinance that I want to talk about. The first piece is the recent conversation that I think some of our candidates are talking about, which is the issue of Hullabaloo and other festivals that occur at Wheeler Park to the community around downtown. And it sounds like there's some creative solutions that are being discussed between the organizers of such festivals and the city in terms of how we can address both needs of the community for a party and also the community for their peace at home, given the frequencies of the sounds. The second part is the party ordinance, is what I call it, which is about keeping really students in check in neighborhoods where it's kind of getting out of hand. And that came forward a few years ago when student housing off campus started to be a thing in Flag. And that's something that I have an issue with as well, because being someone who hosted a lot of events and parties at my own house over the years, I was very respectful to my neighbors. I didn't bring them cookies, but I was very respectful, and they would have my phone number, and they could call me if it was out of hand, and we did our best, and I'm sure we kept them up at times, but basically that's part of being in college, and that's part of life, and learning how to engage with the community is extremely important in terms of being a part of a community. So that's again why I'm against student-focused housing off campus, because I believe it creates bubbles of kind of chaos and party zones at time that are hard to manage and make things more difficult. So those are my thoughts, and thank you. I've been hosting groups weekly, like I mentioned, since about 2013, that brought both sides of the conversation together and hosted a discussion and a debate and try to find common ground and learn from each other. And that's something that I organized and established and pursued as a personal value that I wanted to contribute to the community. And being a representative and future council member, I look forward to doing the same as a council member. And I want everyone in this town to know that I am here to represent you. And you meaning whoever you are. It doesn't matter who you are, where you come from, if you're documented, undocumented, registered to vote, have a felony, I am here to represent you. If you live in the county, I don't care. You are an individual and you matter to me. And so my door will always be open, and anyone here is welcome to reach out to me at any time and set up a meeting to get together and talk. But what I like to do is really listen to all sides of the discussion before I make a decision and make sure that all voices are at the table so that we can make the best decision we can as representatives on council.
Okay.
Yeah, our public schools need a lot of support right now, especially in the state. I have 2 degrees in education, and my first day of student teaching is what inspired me to get into politics further. And, you know, Red for Ed, power to the teachers. I'm so glad to see that movement come alive in Arizona. I remember when it first started happening in the Midwest and thinking, I really hope that catches here in Arizona, because we need a revolution around our public schools in the state and across the nation. And that's what's happening. And the teachers are doing a great job at leading that. I believe we were talking about 305, Proposition 305. And if that is the case, I am against 305 because that helps give waivers to students to go to private schools and charter schools. And we need, it's 307?
307, yeah.
So, I'm right.
He's right? 305, okay. Anyway, sorry for interrupting.
That's okay. So we need to support and invest in our public schools. That's a priority. We need to consider our most vulnerable students and populations and what these types of charter schools and private schools are going to do to these populations in Arizona and across the nation. Props 423 and 424 are supporting FUSD, and I say thumbs up on both of those. I've heard complaints about the way the money is going to be spent and it broken down, and you know what? This is what's on the ballot, and we need to support our FUSD public school system, and that is something I look forward to advocating for and getting more educators involved in politics and students educated on how policy works so they can be the future leaders to continue to support our public schools and their futures.